Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today, I am going to tell you a personal story about what happened when me, a person who is very anaphylactically allergic to peanuts, ate some peanut butter last weekend. So stay tuned. I'm going to tell you that story, what happened, what I did, what you should do, and everything about anaphylaxis and allergies. So if you suffer from allergies, anaphylaxis, you definitely want to watch this. And if you don't, if you are someone who has eczema or mild food allergies or hay fever, or just a loved one who is experiencing these conditions, or you're just curious and want to hear a really good story, I also invite you to listen in because I promise you will learn something. If you are new here, my name is Dr. Kayla Clark. I am a naturopathic doctor and topical steroid withdrawal eczema warrior. I had eczema my entire life until I went through TSW in 2016. I went through it in 8 months. And since then, my skin has been great. And now, as a naturopathic doctor, I am super passionate about helping other skin warriors get through the process, but also on a deeper level than that, really claim their sovereign health and understand what makes them and their bodies most aligned and optimal and thriving in this world. I ate a peanut. I am highly allergic to peanuts. I am obviously alive to tell you the tale. So, what happened? First of all, I want to just quickly explain what anaphylaxis is. Anaphylaxis is essentially the most severe form of an allergy. So it can commonly happen with foods, environmental things like bee stings. But what essentially happens is the person is exposed to the allergen, and the immune system thinks that it is such a threat that it calls in the biggest troops, it calls in all the troops, the massive attacks, and the inflammatory system causes havoc in the body. What this looks like is the blood vessels become very leaky. They vasodilate, which means they get bigger. Fluids leak out, so you'll get edema, you'll get massive fluid loss from the circulatory system, which means your blood pressure is going to drop like crazy. You might pass out, your throat might close, you're going to get all of these symptoms of regular histamine release, such as massive hives and swelling and itchiness and redness and uncomfort and stomach aches, right? Because histamine also exists in the stomach and in the nervous system. So you're going to get an influx of anxiety, feelings of impending doom, because essentially you could die. It's a very serious reaction. So you should not take anaphylaxis lightly. If you have an anaphylactic allergy, you probably discovered it when you were a child by accident, potentially, or if you've had allergy testing done. And if you have anaphylaxis, like I do, you might have gone through elementary school or known someone that was like the token allergic kid that you couldn't bring peanut butter to school because of them, or us, I should say. And we always had to have our own chairs and stuff. So this is the reason why it can kill you. So the most common culprits for anaphylactic allergies in the West, well, mostly in the West is where they exist. And there are multiple reasons for that. One of them being thought to be our influence of hygiene, or our focus on hygiene, the hygiene hypothesis, which is disrupting how our immune systems develop. But that's another topic. And there are many, if you're curious about learning more about that, there are many videos on that in the Steroid Free Skin Academy. So I'll drop the link below that. You can learn more about that in the Academy. But for today, I just want us to understand that anaphylaxis is serious. The most common culprits are foods like peanuts, nuts, fish, things like that, and bee stings, et cetera, et cetera. And if you are exposed to these things, you could essentially go into a massive anaphylactic attack, which looks like throat closing, blood pressure dropping, insane itching, and potentially death. Not a good thing. If you are allergic to something, or if you have a family member or friend that's allergic to something like this, in this way, they might have an EpiPen. So this is essentially epinephrine injection. And what this does is it kind of counteracts that reaction. It keeps your blood vessels a bit more constricted so your blood pressure doesn't drop, keeps your heart beating, keeps your airway open. And this here isn't a cure. This essentially just slows down the reaction enough so you can get to a hospital and they can intervene and like calm your body down. And so I'll go over that later. But today I'm going to go over the story of what happens when someone who is that allergic to a peanut eats a peanut. Okay, so if you are an allergic person, if you have allergies yourself, you definitely want to watch this. But also if you just have eczema, environmental allergies, mild food allergies, or if there's someone in your life who's going through this, you also would want to watch this video. It's a good thing to know. It's a good thing to have, and always good to know how to help people. And also, it's a kind of a very interesting story. And also, it's good to keep in mind that there are varying degrees of allergies and anaphylaxis and sensitivities. So again, if you want to learn more about sensitivities and versus allergies and the difference, check out the Steroid-Free Skin Academy. I have tons of content there. But today, just talking about allergies only, that is an IgE reaction from the immune system, essentially meaning that the immune system is releasing a molecule called immunoglobulin E, which is highly reactive, which tells the immune system to react in this way. Now, there are varying sensitivities on a spectrum within this. So even if you have anaphylaxis, for example, someone else might be more sensitive than me and likely is out there. And there are varying reasons for this, which I'll go talk about after. Okay, so let's talk about what happened. Essentially, I was just at a health fair and I was sampling some dehydrated chia seed pudding is what it was. And the first thing I did when I went up to the desk or her booth was I said to her, I have a nut allergy, no nuts. And she said, okay, great, no nuts. Now, I will preface that I am not as sensitive as some people in the fact that like if it says may contain, I will usually eat it. And I don't recommend people do this, but this is the choice that I make for my life and my body. I find that it's okay for me. So even if you have an anaphylactic allergy and she had a peanut butter flavor, and I just said, don't give it to me. If you were that sensitive that it was manufactured around the same equipment, you would probably just skip this booth altogether, right? You wouldn't try it. But I'm just telling you my story. So I went up there and I tried it and I said, just don't give me anything with nuts. So she said, great. So she's giving me all these samples. She gives me another one. She says, one more. This is my son's favorite. You have to try it. I try it. Immediately, I feel my tongue swell and my mouth get itchy. And it's a very specific feeling. And so I know this feeling because I've had this reaction before. I guess I'll caveat back to quickly. When I had a really bad anaphylactic reaction, again, this was maybe 5 years ago, I had mole sauce. Mole has peanuts in it. If you don't know that, mole, butter chicken, and romesco sauce. Those are the three sauces off the top of my head that I know for a fact have nuts in them. So just be aware of that. But anyways, I had mole sauce. There was peanuts in it. Anaphylactic reaction. I'm from Canada originally, but I was visiting Texas at the time. So I was Canadian. I had no idea of the American healthcare system. Luckily, thank God I had insurance because it cost me about $4,000 to go to the hospital, and they gave me an IV of steroids, Benadryl, and an antihistamine for the gut. And then they did not give me epinephrine in the hospital because my throat was okay again. Okay, so I made it to the hospital. I didn't use my EpiPen. I should have. This was 5 years ago. Okay, and everything was okay, but I went to the hospital and they monitored me, and that's why I didn't use the EpiPen. Okay, so going back now to last weekend, I was at the booth. She gave me the sample. Immediately, I feel my throat close. It's the same feeling that I've had before in the past, so I immediately recognize the feeling. Oh crap! I look at her and I say, "Was that peanut butter?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah." And I the first thing I do was engage response mode. I think that for me, I'm lucky I can move into let's go. So thinking clearly, I know that I need to keep my heart rate down because when the heart rate goes up, everything starts pushing through your blood more. You start panicking, things get worse. So immediately just try and keep calm, as calm as you can be. My EpiPen was, again, I will be very honest with you, and this is a very bad doctor example. I left it at home. It was a really bad move. I got slacky and I left it at home. So I didn't know if it was in my car or if I had it even. So what I did was I immediately walked to my car. I knew I had Benadryl in there. I took my antihistamines. I took 2 Benadryl. And again, I recommend if you have allergies, Benadryl or antihistamines or something you always keep on you always. This is something I am pretty strict about. I always have Benadryl on me. And so I had some in my car. I took 2. I called my husband right away. I said, bring my EpiPen, bring liquid Benadryl. get me. And so I was just there. I stayed calm. I was monitoring my symptoms really closely. I luckily, I'm quite aware. I know what anaphylaxis looks like, and I know what it feels like in my body. So this is why I also make this video, to tell you my experience and to tell you what to look for. But I was sitting there. I was trying to keep my heart rate very calm and noticing if I could breathe okay, noticing if I was itching and where, and noticing if I was getting dizzy, if my blood pressure was dropping, and if I needed to call 911. At this point, I hadn't. And then honestly, it was okay. It was the mildest reaction I have ever had. The only thing I felt was the mouth swelling. And I do attribute that to me quickly, very quickly taking Benadryl and keeping my heart rate down and keeping calm. And then I took some more liquid Benadryl. My husband got there, and then I just went home and rested. Okay. So it was fine. It ended up being fine. It could have been a lot worse. I talked to the woman after, and I really hope she learned a lesson on taking this seriously, because she could have killed me. And I live in America now, so everyone sues here. Again, I'm Canadian, so I'm not going to sue anyone, but for this at least. But, you got to be careful. Anyways, lesson learned for her, but also for myself. Okay. So what I did, Benadryl, great. Keeping calm, great. But honestly, what I did was very dangerous in that it was so dumb of me to leave my EpiPen at home and to not double check every single thing that I put in my mouth. She was handing me samples, and at the end of the day, it is my responsibility to check what goes into my mouth. I am the one putting it in my mouth. So that is on me. Not having my EpiPen with me, that is on me. That was a silly move. Could have ended up being a lot worse. So what should you do in a situation like this? Obviously, prevention is the best thing to do. Just avoid it. If you're allergic to peanuts, don't eat anything that's been near peanuts. If you know you're that sensitive. Again, make sure you're aware of what you're putting in your mouth, even to the very end of it, even if they tell you. Listen to your intuition. And number 3, keep your EpiPen and your proper supplies on you. So again, I was halfway prepared there. I did have the Benadryl, I had the antihistamines, did not have the EpiPen. What should you do if you are anaphylactic and you're in this situation? You should call 911 and use your EpiPen immediately. Okay, it's not worth messing around with. You could die. It's not worth being silly and stubborn like me. Don't do that. Okay, what the medical textbooks will tell you, what any EMT will tell you, what I will tell you if you come into my office, and I tell myself now, and I promise I am listening to my own advice now. If you have a reaction, use your EpiPen and call 911. You could still take the Benadryl and the antihistamines, but what the epinephrine does is it doesn't necessarily prevent you from, it doesn't go backwards. So if your throat is already shut and your blood pressure is already dropped, it doesn't help you. You have to prevent it from happening. And calling 911 is this stuff can happen quickly, even if you think you're fine. An anaphylactic reaction can actually co-occur hours up to days later. So being near a hospital is really key and important, because if you have a reaction, again, the epinephrine can't go backwards. You need to have more invasive, intensive help, right? So this is where the Western medical system comes in to play. I'm a naturopathic doctor, but this is where we need the Western system for emergencies and utilizing it. Okay, don't do silly things like me, and not use your EpiPen or go to the hospital. Okay, so that is my story. This is an EpiPen. If you ever watch the commercials, if you have a reaction, blue to the sky, orange to the thigh, it goes to the medius part of your thigh, and you're going to lift this blue thing up. Little needle comes out here, and it will give you an injection of epinephrine. I'm calling 911. Okay. So that is my story. I hope you learned something from it. I hope it's interesting for you. I will actually also say this, because this is something that comes up, and I hear a lot of fear about this from my clients, and this happened to me too. If you are in TSW and you have an anaphylactic reaction, or you're having an anaphylactic reaction, you absolutely must go to the hospital. I know there's a lot of fear of they're going to give me steroids, and they might. It's not worth dying over. Okay, it's really not. Um, that's just the reality of it. And as woo-woo as I am, that's what I will say. It's not worth dying over. And when I went to the hospital, I was also going through topical steroid withdrawal, and I went back when I first had the mole reaction, and I went to the ER, and they gave me IV steroids, and that was what happened. And I don't know. My skin cleared in 8 months. Would it have cleared faster? I don't know, but I did the work after to help my body recalibrate, and I don't think that it prolonged it that much in my experience personally. And in my patient's experience, I don't see it as well. At the end of the day, even if it does again, it is not worth your life. So that's my caveat on that. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in learning more about my approach to skin and healing and real life examples of what happens and how you can mitigate and bounce back from an event like this, and when your immune system is inflamed, because that, also, even though I didn't have a reaction, my body was like, what are you doing? What's going on? And it becomes more sensitized those days after. So how did I balance that? How did I mitigate that? We talk about all of this stuff, and you'll learn all of this in more deep dives inside the Steroid Free Skin Academy. So that is a monthly membership community for anyone who is going through topical steroid withdrawal or has eczema or any sort of skin condition that is looking to clear their skin from a holistic place, from a root cause perspective, and have support and guidance along the way. So this is an accessible community. It is $30 a month as of now, and you'll have access to me in a group container, all of my information, my protocols, my handouts, my courses, my master classes. We do weekly group coaching as well as monthly master classes. So what's the point of having an education and information out there if nobody can access it? This is my hope to make healthcare accessible and affordable. If you're interested in that, the link is below. Please give me a follow if not, and hope to see you soon.